Chapter 3: The Awakening. The world around them went dark. The disorienting feeling of being yanked through the fabric of time left their heads spinning, and when their feet finally hit solid ground, they stumbled, disoriented. They lay there for a moment, breathless and shaken, before pushing themselves up. Ghor was the first to stand, his eyes darting around as he tried to get a sense of where, or when, they had landed. "This isn't Avalon. Not the one we know," Torak muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. The architecture was old, yet somehow familiar. It was Avalon, but the halls were different, ancient, but untouched by the time they had known. Cora took a step forward, her face pale but determined. "Where are we?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Before they could formulate any answers, a figure appeared at the end of the hall. Adamas, the man they had just seen die, now standing in front of them, alive and whole, but younger. His robes were pristine, his eyes full of energy and optimism, the face of someone not yet burdened by the weight of the future. "Welcome to Avalon," the younger Adamas said, his voice warm and commanding. "I'm glad to see new faces around here." The heroes froze in shock. Ghor took a hesitant step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. This was Adamas, but not the one they had just lost. This was a version of him from the past, before the trials, before the weight of what was to come. "You're younger," Torak asked, unable to keep the confusion out of his voice. The younger Adamas raised an eyebrow. "I am. I just became a master recently. You must be new students. But you look familiar." The heroes stood frozen, each struggling to process what had just happened. The time they had just experienced felt impossible to grasp. Adamas had died in the battle against Kalin, yet now here he was, before them, younger and full of life. We've traveled through time," Cora whispered, her voice filled with realization. Her gaze shifted between the younger Adamas and her companions. "We're in the past. Time works in strange ways," the younger Adamas said softly, his voice carrying a sense of mystery. "But I'm here to help. You've come to Avalon for a reason. And now, your journey truly begins." The weight of it all settled over them. The battle with Kalin, their journey through the portal, and now, standing in the past of Avalon, they realized just how deep this story ran.
The heroes stood in the ancient chamber, the air thick with the weight of the history carved into the stone walls. Ghor stepped closer to the symbol, his fingers tracing the etchings of a dark figure that seemed all too familiar. He stiffened. "This symbol, it's the same one Kalin wears on his armor. Whoever he is, he's been here before. Or maybe, he's always been here." Cora, still shaken by her vision, looked to Ghor. "He's manipulating time, changing it, controlling it. He's a fixed point, like a disease spreading through the timeline." Torak clenched his fists, a fire of anger igniting in his chest. "Then let's stop him before he can complete whatever he's planning. We strike before he's even ready." "No," Ghor said sharply, placing a hand on Torak's shoulder to stop him. "It's not that simple. Kalin has been manipulating time itself. Rushing in without understanding what we're up against will only bring us into the cycle we're trying to break." Damo's eyes narrowed. "There's something anchoring this cycle, something Kalin knows, something that gives him power. If we don't learn it, we'll be stuck here, repeating the same mistakes." Cora stood back, her mind still swirling with fragmented memories of her vision. "We need to find someone who understands this better than we do. If we don't, we'll keep playing right into Kalin's hands." The moment hung heavy in the air, and then, as if summoned by their conversation, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Torches flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. A hum filled the chamber, reverberating through their bones, as a portal tore open in front of them, its edges pulsating with energy. A voice, deep and distorted, echoed through the chamber. "You are not ready. Turn back now, or become part of the cycle forever." The heroes exchanged tense looks, knowing that there would be no turning back now. With a shared resolve, they stepped toward the portal, leaving the chamber behind. The heroes stood in the heart of Avalon, surrounded by ancient, towering structures that stretched far beyond what they had imagined. Despite its grandeur, there was an air of familiarity to the place. Though this version of Avalon was a relic of the past, it held the promise of the future. But for now, there was an uneasy silence, the weight of their predicament pressing heavily on their minds. "You've come a long way," the younger Adamas said, breaking the silence with a wry smile. His voice was warm, but there was an edge of something deeper, something unspoken that the heroes could sense. "But this is only the beginning." Ghor nodded slowly, still trying to process everything. The sense of time warping around them was disorienting. Just hours ago, they had fought Kalin, witnessed Adamas's death, and been sucked into a rift in space and time. Now, they found themselves in a version of Avalon that had not yet seen the tragedies and triumphs of the future. Torak's gaze narrowed. "You've seen this before, haven't you? The future. All of it. You've known what was coming." The younger Adamas gave a thoughtful look, stepping forward. "I have seen many things, yes. But even I don't know everything. What's important now is what happens next. The past. The present. And the future. They all converge here." Cora stepped closer, her mind racing. "But how? Why are we here? What's our purpose?" "You're here because this place, Avalon, is a nexus," Adamas explained, his expression growing more serious. "A place where different versions of time converge. Where the boundaries between reality and destiny can be bent." "And Kalin?" Ghor interrupted, his voice low. "What's his connection to all this?"
The younger Adamas' eyes darkened slightly at the mention of the name. Kalin is more than just a threat. He is a distortion, a force that seeks to unmake the very fabric of time itself. He's not just an enemy, he's a shadow of what will come. And that shadow has roots here. The heroes exchanged uneasy glances. It was clear that Kalin's presence was far more complex than they had originally believed. "Then we must prepare," Torak said, his voice fierce. "We need to stop him before he unravels everything." The younger Adamas gave a grim nod. "Indeed, but first there are trials ahead. Trials that you must face, not just as warriors, but as something greater." Ghor stepped forward. "What do you mean?" Adamas met his gaze, his eyes filled with a knowing sorrow. "You are not simply warriors, Ghor. You are gods among men. Your powers come from the deepest places of existence, from the very fabric of time and reality itself. And to face Kalin, to truly understand what he represents, you will have to embrace the truths about yourselves." "Gods," Cora repeated, skepticism lacing her tone. "You expect us to believe we are gods?" The younger Adamas smiled softly, though there was a heavy weight behind it. "Not gods in the way you think, but beings of immense power, capable of shaping the world around you. But there's more to it than that. You'll have to confront your own pasts, your deepest fears, and the things you have yet to understand about yourselves." Just as Ghor opened his mouth to respond, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. It was faint at first, but it grew steadily stronger, like a distant rumble that signaled something much larger approaching. The sky overhead darkened, and the air crackled with ominous energy. A figure appeared on the horizon, a figure cloaked in shadows, standing against the backdrop of the setting sun.